All right, it is time for an astro update. We've got a lot of changes going on, so I need to discuss some of this and what's going on with me too. All right, first of all, make sure that's set. We have Mars now in Sagittarius with Saturn backing up into Sagittarius with Jupiter. Saturn is currently in Capricorn. I know this says Sagittarius, but Stellarium is now, because they brought in Ophiuchus, is off by 3 degrees. So we have the Saturn-Jupiter-Mars thing going on. This war between these three. And Mars works with Saturn and Jupiter. But this entire year, we're going to watch Mars switch sides. He's going to start off with Jupiter. So we have, a battle of ideology. That's what this is. It's a philosophical battle of the ideologues. And now that Mars is in the picture on the side of Jupiter, in comes emotion, and war. So it's Jupiter is now engaging in warlike mentality, argumentative, emotional outbursts. You'll see a lot of this happening. It's going to be extremely emotional and warlike emotion. Your words are over here retrograde in the water of life itself. And probably by tonight or in the morning, with the sun moving this way and Mercury going the other way, retrograde, he's going to become combust. So we're going to have a Mercury retrograde combust within the next 24 hours. If not right now, by the time this video is uploaded. So more communication breakdowns. And I feel like that's what I'm going through. And you've got the moon in on this. As the moon progresses, let's progress the moon here. We're just going to do it by hours. We're going to have a moon solar conjunction, Mercury combust, in the morning at 3 a.m. Central Standard Time, as Mercury continues to retrograde back into this mess. So we'll have a Sun-Moon conjunction, and then when that moves out, we'll have me get Mercury. We're going to see Mercury continue, combust, and we'll get a combust conjunct right there on the 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning Central Standard Time. So no communications here. Everything is hidden. There are things that need to be talked about that will be hidden. And I already feel the pressure of this. Heavily. There's a lot going on you guys don't know about. Let me bring it back to today. Right there. Put this in the corner. I have not rented a house yet. And after yesterday, I seriously doubt that I am going to stay here in Lawton. Let me tell you what I have discovered. I now know why this town seems like it was abandoned, and why there are so many empty houses so cheap for rent that nobody will rent. At first, I know about building codes. I've been in construction, family members in construction. My husband was a contractor, and I ran his business. So I know a lot about construction and building codes. And I grew up in the South, so everything had to be built to what we call hurricane standard. All the new standards, you have to strap down the frame, literally anchor the frame with straps into the ground. Even mobile homes and regular homes. On the West Coast, you have to build everything to quake standard. But in Oklahoma, they don't have that. Nothing can really stop a tornado. Once a tornado decides to tear up something, it's just going to tear it up. There's no such thing as tornado proof unless you want to build a levee behind your house, which will cause the tornado to jump over you because they run on the ground and it'll kick them up in the air. And that is the only protection that you can get, is to be on the northeast side of a hill, because they travel northeast and you want to be on the other side of that hill. So otherwise there are no building codes here. And I know a lot of this part of this town was built way back in the 30s and 40s, 40s and 50s. And the streets are tore all to hell here. So every house I've looked at, every single one, the yards are covered in sewage. There hasn't been any rain here since I got here. Not a drop. It's just wind. And wind dries up water. So I'm trying to talk with these agents about the septic systems. And are they not pumping the septics out? Why is there sewage in all the yards? I don't want to rent a house where I can't even let my dog out in the yard. That's the whole purpose. So Kelly can have a yard. And they're all covered in sewage. And so they started showing me newer built houses, right? That aren't on septic systems, that are on city sewage. And same thing. There is sewage coming up from the ground. It is everywhere in this town. The city workers are tearing up streets all over the place, trying to get the drainage to work. One, they have a drainage problem. They don't have anywhere to drain to. There's obviously an aqueduct under this town, and it's pushing the water up. It's coming from underneath. In my opinion, this whole place is going to sink. It's going to sink eventually. It doesn't have a choice. The streets are already sinking. I can imagine what the clay sewage pipes from when they first started laying them look like. It's unbelievable. No wonder it's so cheap and nobody wants them. That's why. Because it's just filth. Even in the hotel I'm in, they have low flow toilets so that it isn't shoving that much water down into the system. And I hate low flow toilets. Even if you pee, you just got to flush them twice. And it kind of defeats the purpose, really. It was just a bad idea to begin with. So it looks like I am not staying in Lawton. And I'm not sure which direction I'm going to have to go to get out of the saturated ground. Everything here is saturated. The little space, like here where I'm at, it's a parking lot, but they have these little mediums with grass in the middle. Even that is saturated, surrounded by concrete, which absorbs water. So they have a bad problem underground here. And it's not going to become my problem. Now that I understand what's going on here and why, I don't care how cheap it is. Sewage, that's disease. That breeds rats and snakes and mosquitoes. Oh my goodness. When summer comes, when spring comes, all of this standing water, it's going to be a hotbed for mosquitoes. So I'm not sure which direction I'm fixing to go in, but I'm out of here in the morning, probably before daylight. I am being begged to please come back to Las Vegas. Good news, I guess, in a way. I'm not going back to Las Vegas, one. But my friend, she had her baby. She had her baby on the 17th. A little boy. And I am allowed to tell you his name is Thalen. Her mother has left her there. She tried to get her to go back with her. She refuses to go. She's got her own apartment now. They hooked her up, set her up. I got her into like an unwed mother's home, and when you have your babies, you can't go back there because most of the women in there were giving their babies up for adoption. So you can't bring your baby back there to women who are giving their babies away. So they're really good about having you settled before you even get out of the hospital, because they can't bring you back there. So she's got her own place now. And of course, it's not in a great neighborhood. It's government funded. And she's a little intimidated and scared because I'm gone. Now her mother's gone. So I did something that she wasn't happy with at first. But I found her dad. Her dad abandoned her and her mother, or her mother abandoned dad, depending on whose side of the story you hear, when she was just a baby. And they were very young at the time, too. I'm way older than her, even her mother. As a matter of fact, she could be my grandchild. But anyway, I found her dad, and I've talked with him. And he is beside himself. The child's first name is Stellarium, but they gave the dad's name as the middle name. So she's now in contact with him and has not spoken to him, never spoken to him. He left when she was a little girl. Yes, he has remarried, so now she has an extended family. And they live on the West Coast. So hopefully I get the call today that everything is settled there, and that I think he's going to get her and take her with him. And apparently she's willing to go that route, but she's not willing to go back with Mother. Mother's new husband, she chose her new husband over her children. And new husband, is abusive to her. So she doesn't want to be in that. If the mother wants to be beat up, that's the mother's choice. But she's old enough to leave. She's a grown woman now. As a matter of fact, she turns 19 this month. So she gets a whole new start. So I'm real happy for her, but she's going to have to go with her dad, because I can't see me moving back to Las Vegas. That's not going to happen for me. I don't even want to go in that direction, although I'm fixing to have to. I think I might reconsider Clovis, Farmington, Aztec, New Mexico. And hopefully by the time I wake up in the morning, my decision will be made. But I'm not sure yet. I've actually thought about just popping on up to the Cherokee Reservation. Once you get on the east side of Oklahoma, you start to move into the Comanche Mountains and the Ozarks of Arkansas. I consider the Comanche Mountains the foothills to the Ozarks. So, the Comanche is in the south and the Ozark is north on the Cherokee Reservation. So I'm probably going to head in that direction. Not sure yet. Won't know till I wake up. And I know it's a bad time for travel. Mercury retrograde. It's a bad time for writing contracts. Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde tells me I should turn around and go to New Mexico. That I'm supposed to be going backwards. That's what it's telling me. But my will, my desires, my emotions, my Mars, my desired Jupiter and my Mars emotion over here in Sagittarius are very ideological, right? That's what I'm leaning on right now, is my emotions and my desires. But my higher self is Saturn. Saturn's in my first house. He is my ruling planet. So, I don't know yet. I don't know how I'm going to battle this mess of what's going on here. They're all, with Mercury retrograde, and Mars moving into Sagittarius, everything is compacting in three little houses. And these three houses belong to Jupiter, Saturn, and Saturn. So it's a big battle, and I want to go, right now what's important to me is Kelly. It's really important that I have her a place to where I can put in a doggy door, or I can just open the door and let her go. She needs room to run. And I've even tried to take her to the park here. So they have big dog parks here with nobody in them. And yep, saturated. Can't let her out. She's one of those dogs that's going to drink out of a mud puddle. So I can't let her anywhere near it. She's not the smartest dog. She's loving and she's loyal and she is aggressively friendly. You're going to pet her. Everything must stop until you give her attention first. I don't care who you are, a stranger on the street. You are going to acknowledge her. She forces it on you. So it's important that she has a secured area that's clean. And that's not going to happen here anywhere. I even went to, there's a few hills around here. It's sitting at the base of a few hills. So I even went there. No different. The saturation is everywhere, which tells me it's coming from underground. That this place is probably sitting on top of an underground river or a lake or some type of aqueduct. Because I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've been down in the swamps of Louisiana. I grew up on the Mississippi Delta in that black saturated mud, and I've never seen anything like this. And you know it's sewage because you can smell it. And it has this white, filmy white shit to it. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. But it's not clean water that's coming up from the water table. Of course, the realtors around here don't want to discuss that. Oh, it'll dry up. It's just from the winter rains. I'm like, this is saturation. It ain't rained since I've been here. What rain? What rain are you talking about? The wind has been blowing at least 30 to 50 miles an hour since I got here. What? It don't even make sense. So, yeah, they know. They know exactly what's going on here. And they're not going to publish it. I also found out that I had a hard time. And I'm kind of glad because when I first started looking at houses, I actually picked one out. And through a realty company, but they were just property managers for the owners. And when it came down to flashing my license, they rejected me. Because my license says Nevada, specifically Las Vegas, I was turned down from 2 different houses that I almost moved into before I realized the sewage problem. So I'm glad I got turned down for those. But they are boycotting people from the West Coast. They think people from the West Coast want to come here and grow pot because now MMJ is pretty much legal in all states at some point, even if it's like 0.4 THC. I mean, really minute. Because of the CBD, everything you can grow here, right? So I'm like, why would they do that? It's legal in Nevada and California. You can grow more there than you can here. Why would they want to come here to grow? It don't even make sense. And but that was the realtor's excuse, is the owner doesn't want anybody from the West Coast coming out here and growing marijuana on his property. And I said, I'm willing to sign something that I don't intend on growing anything. Maybe some corn and tomatoes, but my God. So anyway, it's been a crazy week. I have dealt with some really insane realtors, to tell you the truth. Some of them just seemed off their rockers. I think they've been sniffing or smelling the sewage too long. This place is surrounded by cattle, and you can just, you even see it. They're up to their knees in mud because the ground is saturated. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about what's going on, and let's go find Venus. This is our saving grace right now. Bless her heart. Her heart, Venus, is exalted right now above all things with all this mess over here going on. All this, and it's all about Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn and Jupiter. And, but we have the saving grace of the love of Venus exalted in Pisces, which is good. And then we get Venus coming after Aries. Venus is going to come into her own house. She goes into opposition in Aries of her own house, Libra, and then moves into her own house of Taurus. So there'll be a little issue right here as she moves through Aries. But while she's in Pisces, this is, I understand that whatever decision I make, it needs to be one based right there. Because that is the only thing that's going to overcome all of this mess. The emotions and the desires and even my higher self. The Mercury retrograde, being misunderstood, miscommunicated, everything in reverse. But that right there, I need to follow my heart. And so do you. This is what needs to be done above all right now. And we get the privilege of Venus being here until, let's move her along. I'm going to have her for quite a while. Why am I doing hours? And I give it one more punch for 3 degrees. And we get March the 5th. We have until March the 5th to conclude this. The sun will still be in Aquarius until the 12th. The sun moves into Pisces on 3/12. Mercury coming out of its retrograde now. When's Mercury coming out? Yeah, on the 9th, 10th. The 10th halts, the 9th and the 10th halts, and the 11th goes forward. So, on 3/11, the last day the sun's in Aquarius, Mercury will turn around. We have, let's punch it back to the beginning, because we're going to start going through these Saturn, Jupiter retrogrades this year, where they're going to do this together, simultaneously. And, you know, the reason that happens, because Jupiter and Saturn are close together in the relative scheme of things. They're side by side in the astral curve. So when they come upon each other on their little going around the track, a retrograde occurs because of the Earth's motion, not the planet. When a planet comes so close to Earth and Earth is traveling faster than they are, it looks like they go backwards from Earth's perspective. So it's kind of like looking, almost like looking back in time, because the Earth will outpace them, and then it looks like they go in reverse, when actually they don't. It's just perspective. So right now, the Earth is, Mercury is closest to the Earth, hence his retrograde action. And we always know when a planet is closer, when it's at its closest, it goes retrograde. So that's its strongest energy. And when it stops retrograde and starts going further, that one day that it stops and turns around, which will be 3/11 for Mercury, that is its closest position to the Earth, period. It can't get any closer in a forward position. and we feel the effects the strongest. That's why they tell you when a planet goes hot, it feels the strongest. The reason for that is because it is dynamically at its closest position to the Earth. So we feel the energy's intense. It's not moving. We're getting that forward and reverse at one time, nulling each other out. So it just appears to stop, and therefore intensifies its frequencies. Okay. We also have Neptune here in Aquarius. Remember, he's the Christ, the King, the Savior, all of that. But he's also the self-martyr. Right now, as far as imagination, communication, the moon coming over here, you're going to have the sun, the moon, Mercury retrograde, and I think, is Neptune retrograde here? Our numbers are... No. Neptune is out of its retrograde phase. So we're going to have a lot of... Everything is going to be Sagittarius and Aquarius. Fire and air. And you know, air can exist without fire. But fire, literal fire, not light, will allow light, but fire cannot exist without air. Air fuels the fire and makes it burn harder. So the words, the imaginations, your actions, all of this is fueling. This is just fueling this. So again, when we got planets in fire, and then you're going to have Venus move into fire, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a very fiery springtime coming up, especially with the Jupiter-Saturn dance here. Now, once Mars makes it over into Capricorn, let's do that, so you can see what day we can prepare for that. Let's move him on over. I'm going to have to bump it back because, there we go, 1, 2, 3. The 27th, so the 28th of March, Mars is going to move into Capricorn. And when that, with Saturn, so when that happens, I'm going to have both of these. I'm born in my first house of Capricorn. So it's going to take me back to the beginning. But Mars switches sides. See, during this time, Mars is between the two. He's making a decision. Does he go with the ideology, desire, or does he go with the higher self? And of course, we know he goes with the higher self, conjuncting in Capricorn on the 31st. Big to do here. Big to do. Watch this. This could be earthquake central. These days right here, from the 26th through the 1st of April, through April 1st. Watch those days, because when you got Saturn sitting on that edge and Mars moving in, switching sides. Mars is going to switch sides. Mercury's coming out of its retrograde, and Venus is getting ready to move into Taurus. You know, it's a lot easier because of the changes that have been made. It is so much easier to view the actual lines of where something is in the Arabic or the Persian. It's Oriental. You can tell by the faces, but Venus doesn't actually. You can see in theirs when Venus moves in. Right there. Right there. The day after Mars moves into an Earth sign, Venus moves into an Earth sign. So you're going to have Mars and Venus. Mars exalted in Capricorn with Saturn. Venus in her own house of fixed Earth. So, huge earthquakes. That's going to change everything. The sun will be in Pisces. Mercury will still be in Aquarius. And the battle. Mars, our emotions, anger, war, switches sides. You know, Mars represents our military. And a lot of what's being uncovered with me has to do with military. And Jupiter rules empire. Jupiter and Mars are the gods of war and desire, and they work well together. But Mars is going to switch sides here, and he's going with government. He's going with Saturn and the higher self through this battle. It takes Mars about 2 years to get around the circle. So, because of the winter solstice coming up this year with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn, Mars will not have time to come back around and save Jupiter. Mars usually saves Jupiter, not this time. So the military is going to back out of empire, and that is worldwide. Things are changing here in the United States. Things are changing in Europe. You know, when I say empire, Jupiter represents Europe. Jupiter represents Europe. Mutable water. Pisces. This is Europe's time. That's why they have the European Union Empire. This is their time, and they know it. But the age of empire and Jupiter is almost up. They're done. As we move into the age of Aquarius, it's the time of the true king, not the fake ones over here in the age of Pisces. The dreamers that just play like they're being kings. They're not real kings. A real king has his crown given to him from above, not below. I can claim to have my crown because I've opened my third eye. Or it was opened for me. I'm not sure how that works. All I know is it happened to me very young. And I won't argue with anybody about it. You weren't there, you don't know, and I have documented evidence. I talked about it in school from the time I was a little girl. It's all through my school records. They kept changing me schools, and they kept shoving me in to be evaluated, and I just run my mouth like an open faucet. I wanted to tell anybody that would listen to me, because my parents were not listening, so my teachers didn't want to listen. The children don't want to listen, not as much. The older they got, the less interested they became in it. But the psychologists and the psychiatrists were very interested in it, and of course, they had no alchemical training. They had no way of understanding the symbolism. So to them, I was no telling what I was diagnosed as. But they didn't know what to do with me because as far as on paper was concerned, I was the top student. There's nothing you could put in front of me. You give me a book and you can test me on the book the next day, because I'd sit up all night reading it and be able to answer your questions. I'm really good at retaining information and accessing it. I'm aware that in our brains, we forget nothing. When you die, all of that information comes back. You remember all about that white horse. You remember. The king comes in on a white horse. He's got his crown. That's why I tell you, we don't discover anything, as far as we don't invent anything. We rediscover, we re-uncover, we remember, and we get our crown when we get our crowns. Because that's part of Saturn keeps tabs of everything. Your higher self is behind you, to your right. It's on your right side behind you. He's called Father. Paternophilius. Did I say that right? Paternophilius. The family patriarch, to where the mother would be on the left. But again, behind you, you're going to hear the feminine voice from the left ear, and you're going to hear the masculine voice from the right ear. And that's how it works. Your left brain, right brain. So I get all of this, and I get why everybody else doesn't. And I get how difficult it is to understand. And that's why I encourage all of you to learn the symbolism, because it is a language. And once you learn that language, you can navigate anywhere. You can go to any place, any country that speaks any language, and you still have the benefit of being a step ahead of everybody there, because you know the symbolism. And you know when you look at a building or an advertisement or a logo or a seal, you know, a city has a seal, a county has a seal, a state has a seal. It just goes on, and these are alchemically magic circles, so they can harness that energy. That, and I love that, because that's really what it is. Okay, I am missing, let me pause here. No, here it is. We get our inner G, which is 7, which are our chakras. So our energy is produced within. Now I want to talk about energy for a second. Sorry about that. Didn't feel that sneeze coming, and it just caught me off guard. I coughed and sneezed all at one time. Well, luckily, I put my hand in front of my face and caught it before it splattered all over my screen. Energy. I want to talk about energy for a second, because people are under the assumption that food gives you energy. And in my opinion, that's just not true. When I eat, I get tired. It makes me lazy. It makes me weak. My body needs to go into digestive mode. And so it wants me to stop doing what I'm doing, so it take a nap. You're full, take a nap so you can digest this food. When we sleep is when we digest our food. That's why when you wake up, your bladder's full and you need to go to the bathroom. It's pushing everything full while you sleep. But it's sleep that gives you energy. I can be tired as hell. Matter of fact, when I was driving, I'd get really tired. And I'd pull over and sleep. And that would give me energy. Food did not wake me up. Food made me more tired. So I think this concept that food is energy is incorrect. The body needs food to sustain itself, but there's something about sleep. There's something about sleep that, you know, I've been pondering sleep for a couple of years now, because I suffered from sleep deprivation growing up. I still suffer from sleep deprivation. Quite a lot, actually. Mostly these days from pain. But growing up, I suffered from sleep deprivation because my mother told me there were, raw bones and bloody eyes under my bed and in my closet. And if I so much as got out of the bed, my finger hung off the bed, my hair hung off the bed, then raw bones and bloody eyes would grab me, drag me under the bed, and eat me alive until I turned into raw bones and bloody eyes. So I was terrified as a child. I would lay in bed at night just trembling, waiting on the sun to come up. When the sun come up, then my feet could hit that floor without getting grabbed, and out of that room I went. And, you know, for years, I would not, even as an adult, I would not sleep on a bed that was off the ground. I don't need a bed frame, just throw my mattresses on the ground. And that's when I started getting good sleep. When I was in Las Vegas, 2.5 years, I had a big queen-size bed because it was their bed and it was on a frame. off the ground. So 99% of the time I slept on the couch. I just sit there and doze off on the couch and sleep there because I got better rest. I was more energized. And I realized I knew why. I just didn't want to admit it to myself, but it was because the bed was not on the ground. And that still bothers me from a child, all that crap I was told. You know, I asked my mother, a few of you have asked me this too, why would she do that to you? Why would she do that? Her explanation was that when you have 5 kids to raise, it's easier to do it with fear than with love. My mother never told any of us that she loved us. I never heard my mother tell my father she loved him. Not ever. I've never heard my mother say she loved anybody but her grandchildren. And she's partial to them. There are 2 boys, mine and one great-grandchild that she was partial to. Otherwise, she didn't give a crap. She never done anything for anybody that you didn't owe her. But her love was given at her discretion. And she didn't love her daughters at all. None of us. You know, I'm not alone in this game of what my mother did to me. I'm not the only victim here. But we all did deal with it in a different way. I had 2 sisters that just medicated out, and one that just went into complete denial. It never happened. She invented this whole fake childhood in her memory to be able to deal with it, and would just have these big blank spots, these big black gaps where nothing happened at all. But that was her way of dealing with it. I wished I had selective memory to where I could just black that out. It would have made my life so much easier. But then I wouldn't be who I am today had I done that. And I'm very happy with who I am. Do I have regrets? I've been asked that before. Yes. I'd be lying if I say I didn't. I've made a lot of decisions in my life I wish I would have done differently. And I'm actually facing that right now. I am facing having to make a decision that I don't want to end up regretting. I want to make the right decision. And that's hard to do with our Mercury retrograde. It's easy to do with the sun in Aquarius, being the self-martyr, right? I could easily just, okay, I'm going to come back to Las Vegas and stay with you until you're more comfortable being there. But I know I've done the right thing by tracking down her dad. She gave me enough information between talking to her and her mother that they didn't realize what they were doing. They thought they were just telling me stories. But I was remembering all of that. And then when she called me wanting to come back, I sat there and cried reading the email. It literally brought me to tears. I feel so sorry for her. But I think what's happening to her is she has postpartum depression, is what's going on. I've been there too, so I kind of get it. And I told her to speak to her physician about that. And maybe he could get her. Every woman reacts differently. They just do. And it might take her a little while to her body to adjust. Or she might need hormones to help her. Of course, I'm always going to push the homeopathic side to try not to take the pharmaceuticals. But again, this is a brand new mother, a young one with a brand new baby. And it can be scary. So her mother tried to get her to go back with her after having the baby, and she refused. So her mother has now abandoned her there, I guess hoping she would get scared and change her mind. But Dad is really happy about coming back in the picture. He seems eager to want to actually have a relationship with her. And to find out he's a grandfather at his age kind of stunned him. Like I said, they were young when they had her. So to be a grandfather before you're 40 kind of threw him for a loop a little bit, I guess. But I'll probably talk to him again soon. I actually made the effort to talk to him personally. and he's a nice guy, and he's got a family of his own and a good future, and he is in a position to help her where I'm really not, right? At this point, I'm in a motel room, not a hotel, a cheap Motel 6 motel room, so it's easy for him to help her, and right now I have Kelly, and I just can't see me grabbing her, a brand new baby, an insane dog, and living in a van down by the river. That's just not going to make sense. I need to get me settled first, and I'm not sure where Saturn wants me to be. I know where my desires want me to be, and my emotions want me to be. That's all clear, because my ideology is set, right? I'm set there, but I'm not sure. I seem to be in a communication breakdown with Saturn right now, because I don't know what it is my higher self wants. Surely you don't want me settling here in a cesspool. That's what this place is. It's a cesspool. And you know, the wind blows so hard you don't smell it, because the wind is blowing this fresh air everywhere. Unless you're standing right there on top of it, you don't smell it, because the wind is, that fresh air is just blowing that smell somewhere else. But yeah, I had me a few whiffs of it in this town. Matter of fact, I went into a restaurant to get something to eat. I needed to pee. I generally just go through the drive-thru and grab me and Kelly something. But I walked into a local restaurant, and I made my order and went to the bathroom while they got it done. And I about couldn't breathe in that bathroom. That was the cleanest bathroom I had ever been in. It looked like they scrubbed the grout with toothbrush and bleach. This place was spotless, but they had literally poured concrete over the drain and the floor because of the smell. You could smell the sewage lines from under the building. And that's when I really, really woke up to what the hell is going on in this place. That it's affecting everything. You know, where any other city I would have lived in, that bathroom smelling like that, they would have closed that restaurant down. Just from the smell. And not a proper drainage in the floor. They had to close off the drain with concrete to reduce the smell. But you will never get rid of it. It's in the ground under the building. And they'd have to close every restaurant in this town. So, now that I've identified the problem and why I don't need to be here, I have to say that one thing about all the sewage is if they don't dump the chemicals in it to neutralize it, that's fertilizer. Eventually, this whole area is going to be so fertile. If the aqueduct or whatever's under there, the water table lowers so that the ground can actually dry out, this is some fertilized ground. I'll give it that much. As long as they don't dump the sewage chemicals in there to neutralize it, the Vedic or whatever, we're good to go. This is going to be prime farmland. I wouldn't grow food in it because it's human waste, but you can grow textiles like cotton. This would be great cotton country. Now, I know all about farming because that was how I grew up. Cotton fields, cornfields, sugar cane, dairy farms, orchards of all kinds of nuts and walnuts and pecans and apples and all kind of fruit. So I know a lot about that. And I know that you don't mix. Cow dung is excellent fertilizer, to where human is not. There's a big difference. Big difference. So, you don't use human waste as fertilizer if you're going to plant food, something you're going to consume. But you could easily, like bamboo. Bamboo would be awesome to grow in an environment like this. In a nasty saturated ground that's full of feces, bamboo would take off. Cotton would grow like mad. But I wouldn't want to grow food there. Actually, I have a fetish for bamboo. I've always loved bamboo. I've always wanted to grow my own bamboo. I've always wanted a bamboo fence. Literally, a green bamboo fence, to where you just grow the bamboo and then weave the live bamboo together into a fence. A living fence is what I call it. Okay, I know I am just running my mouth with my Mercury retrograde, talking nonsense that don't have anything to do with this video. But that's what happens. And then Mercury's going to go combust, so you're not going to listen anyway. So it really don't matter. Alright, so there's my update for this week. I haven't made a decision. I don't know. I feel like I have Mercury in Leo, right? And that's what it feels like, because Aquarius is the knowing, and Leo is the opposite. I don't know. And that's exactly what's going on with me. It feels like Mercury in Leo. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Do I go left, right? Do I go north, south, east, or west? What do I do? Which way does the universe need me to go? Which way do I want to go? And I don't have the answer. I seriously don't. So I almost feel like I'm at a stalemate. And what to do next? What do I do next? And I'm ready to be settled. I am ready to be somewhere settled. I don't want to live in this van. I don't want to live in a hotel room with an insane dog. We need wide open spaces for her. But it can't be sewage ground that is that space. I can't allow that. Alright, people. Another video pushing an hour, talking absolute. I guess I'm just chit-chatting. But you need to take all this information. I'm looking at this, trying to evaluate my life and what's going on with me right now. But at the same time, I want you to take the examples of what I'm showing you and what I'm giving you and apply it to your own lives. You can use that for benefit for yourself as well. And get us, so we can all get where we're going. Because we're definitely going. This year, as far as I'm concerned, 2020 and 2021, actually through 2024, is the biggest change that I will see of this construct in my lifetime. I know that. People keep asking me about 2020. I want to talk about the eclipses, because the first eclipse came the way it strikes across. It came from the northwest to the southeast. That's how it traveled. This one will come from the southwest to the northeast. And it makes a X right outside of Paducah, Kentucky. And I'm wondering, is this where I'm supposed to be? Maybe in 2024, when that X is complete. So we've done the 3.5 years for this X. Then we're going to come up to the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction at the winter solstice, which is 3.5 years between these two X, between the one mark and the second one. This is the halfway point, is the winter solstice of 2020. And 2020 is perfect vision. Perfect vision gives you hind sight. You're able to look back into the past and see what? Truth. Reminds me of Q-drops, right? Future proves past. That's what Q-drops always say. People send me those links all the time. People ask me, who do I think Q is? Do I think it's JFK Jr.? Do I think it's military? You know, they're told you're going to be surprised who Q is. So it's obviously somebody that is known by that statement. But to me, if I had to, living in Vegas, you put odds on everything, right? So in my opinion, it is the sun. It's the sun. And I think this is to set up so when this one is out of office, this one is going to go right in. So in my opinion, it's not JFK, it's Junior, but it's not JFK Jr., okay? And that's just my opinion based on observation of what they're doing. Like, I got an email invitation. I get email invitations to for when you're in Las Vegas, and they pump this to you. Every Democratic candidate that comes into town, every Republican candidate, every time somebody comes into town, you get all these emails inviting you to a conference or whatever, and you show up, meetings, dinners, fundraisers, and yeah, so every time that DT would come in, JR was there the week before. Junior always showed up the week before. So you take that for what you will. That's just my guesstimation on observation that who I think Q is. And the last person that asked me that, and I told them, they laughed at me. And they said, he's dumb. He's not on the inside. He don't know anything. And I'm like, that's your assumption. You're assuming he's dumb. You know, I've been on a lot of dates with guys that assumed that I was just a dumbass, and then got really offended when they found out they were the dumbass. I've dated brain surgeons, okay? I've dated some really smart people, but smart doesn't always come from just books. There's a lot more to being smart than you could ever learn in a book. Smart is someone who makes a calculated decision based on observation and verifiable information. Now me, I'm a dumbass because I make bad decisions when I know better. I know it would be a terrible thing for me to go back to Las Vegas. But if the poor girl told me she's going to go with her dad, I hope he goes gets her. That's what I'm banking on, that I don't have to go get her and take her to him, because that takes me not only back to Las Vegas, but up the West Coast. So let's hope. He's obviously got a good job, family. She's got other siblings, so now she has an extended family. She's gonna be okay. I'm not worried about her. I never was. She seems very determined. The most broken I have heard was reading that pitiful email and realizing she's going through postpartum depression. I know you're watching this, sweetie. I love you very much, and I will be here for you. I'll do what I can when I can, but my hands are tied and my choices are limited at this point. I can only do so much. But and I hope it works out for all of you. I hope that happiness is the outcome to it all, because then no matter how difficult the trip was getting there, the happiness makes up for it. So that's what I have to say about that. Uranus still in Aries, very slow here, going to be here for a while. And yes, I'm still getting comments telling me that Uranus is in Taurus. In tropical astrology, yes, Uranus is in Taurus. And if that's the life you want to live, the tropical astrology, Western, off by 23 degrees, who am I to stop you? You're welcome to choose any type of astrology or none at all. I'm not here to force this on anybody. All I know is I've looked at all of them. And this is the most amazing thing I've ever found in my life, is when I finally understood it. And I would have never understood it without alchemy. Without alchemy, I would have never looked up at the stars again. You know, for me, it was Star Trek, Star Wars, which have all gone to crap now. They're not even any good anymore. They shot themselves in the foot on that one. You have to understand, everything we're going through right now is a war, but it is a passing phase. It is a war of these ideologies right here. The battle between Jupiter and Saturn, between the lower chakra Jupiter and the higher chakra Saturn. And Mars and Jupiter rules the two lowest chakras. But Mars is going to switch sides and come over here with Saturn. And that's when Empire, Europe, Jupiter, wow, they're really going to take a dive. And I don't mean to upset you people in Europe, and it's not about Europeans. I'm talking about systems. All of this socialism that's going on, and it's breaking apart. I mean, Brexit's just the beginning for Europe. It will completely break apart. Now, we can look at this 7-year period between these two eclipses as the time of Jacob's trouble. You can look at, we're in an economic boom. So, oh, I'm getting hiccups. We have the 7 years of plenty, followed by the 7 years of famine. Okay? So, now is the time to prepare for what follows the final eclipse. And everything that gets affected, it mostly affects Europe because it is their age. Mutable water is the time for Europe. Fixed water, cardinal water to me is Antarctica. And fixed water, Scorpio, it represents the Arctic. Now, in history, here we go, this is going to get confusing now. In history, the Middle East, Asia ruled water before the flood. So this would have been the Middle East, which looks like a seabed now, right? All sand. But Jupiter and Mars rule Asia and Europe. That's what they rule. And they swap places. Asia and Europe. Oh, it's lagging on me again. And before the flood, Asia was ruled by water. And after the flood, it was ruled by fire. Before the flood, Europe had fire and swapped for water. And we can tell by their deities, by their gods, by their symbols, and using alchemy and astrology. Explain to you the battle of fire and ice has always been between the Europeans and the Orient. And that's why you have Eurasians, which are, I should put a map up. Eurasians are Northern Europe with Northern Orient. Say Russia with China. And then Caucasians are the Southern. You have the Asians who came over from Asia out of Persia, Iran, Iraq, Mesopotamia into Europe and brought their gods. And we call them Caucasians as they crossed the Caucasus Mountains. They're not white people. Eurasians and Caucasians have Oriental blood. And that's why the Jews of Europe claim descendant and right to Jerusalem in Asia, Middle Eastern Asia, because they're Caucasians. They used to be fire worshippers and now they're water worshippers, and vice versa. Both of these groups worship Jupiter and Mars, period. And they just keep swapping back and forth, hence the battle of fire and ice. The Game of Thrones. And it's a Game of Thrones because the throne belongs to Saturn. It never belonged, the throne never belonged to Europe or Asia. Ever. Ever. It belongs to heaven on earth. Saturn, Venus, and Mercury, which are demonized, ostracized, and colonized, belittled, genocide. But the king is the red man. Period. That you can't change it. You can lie about it. You can, I mean, their crown is the chief's headdress. All those feathers that flow right to the ground, all those colors, all that symbolism is so much greater than the desire for a golden crown that Jupiter wants. Jealousy. Woo! Jealousy is off the charts. And, oh, this entitled generation of jealousy. Oh my goodness. They're going to, the entitled ones right now are going to draw the short straw. They already have. It's done. They made their decision. And it's not going to be pretty when the fall comes, because we have about 2 generations out there that are not prepared. They are not prepared. They're so entitled. And, you know, my son is one of them. And I feel that way. Oh, it's my fault. I've done this. In hindsight, looking back, I realized by what I called protecting my child, I enabled him, and I also done him a disservice. Because if the shit ever hit the fan, he doesn't have any survival skills. He doesn't have any emotional survival skills, none of it. None of it. He wouldn't know what to do. I done everything. And boy, was I wrong. And I regret it. That's one of my regrets, is that I did not raise my child to be more independent, to be able to be self-sufficient. I didn't do that. I made him very dependent on mommy or daddy or somebody other than self. So we got a generation coming up that's fixing to find out the hard way that things run in circles, but they also run out of time. And that what we're seeing on the world stage right now with the feminist movement, if that's what you want to call it, toxic femininity, is it's a passing thing. It goes against nature. And Saturn rules nature. So you know this comes from Empire Jupiter. It comes from emotion. They're all very emotional and desires entitlement. All that comes from Jupiter and Mars, not from Saturn. So that's that. The fall's going to be hard for that group. Real hard. They're not going to get what they think they are. It reminds me of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was always one that stood against entitlement, that stood against corporations and all of that. Now, that's exactly what they're supporting. They're backing entitlement and corporations. And it ain't working, because every day we're one day closer to Saturn being back in control. And come 2020, when Saturn is in control, that's when you're going to see the real shit stink. You see how bent out of shape these people get when you come up against them or call them out. Well, you're going to see a lot of that starting this year. And it's just going to ramp up and escalate after the conjunction. Jupiter will not go quietly into that good night. Neither will Mars. Mars is actually going to switch sides. And then there's Jupiter standing alone. Let's just go ahead and go there. Actually, it's on 21. Mercury combust of the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter conjunct in Capricorn, and the Moon and Mars. Let's just go ahead and bring the Moon over to conjunct Mars. Can we get him there? Nope, won't make it that day. I'm going to take it to 12 now. Mars in Pisces. It's Jupiter's house. It's groupthink. It's groupthink. So it's going to be emotional groupthink. And again, that's the thumb, the index and the middle finger, the ring finger and the pinky finger. You get that live long and prosper. And you have the Moon and Venus in the palm. And where's Venus at this time? Ooh, Scorpio. So you got Venus, the Moon, and Mars in water. Venus, the Moon, and Mars all in water. While the Sun and Mercury are in fire, Jupiter and Saturn are in earth. So that's quite a layout there. You're going to have Neptune in water as well, with Uranus in fire. And, you know, I haven't talked about Pluto in a while. Pluto's in the middle of all this mix with Saturn and Jupiter. Here's a good one. I looked at a house. It's not in Lawton. I looked at it on the internet, and I've talked with the owners, but it might be a possibility. And it's in Fredericks, Oklahoma, which is right on the Oklahoma-Texas border. And it's on a street called Pluto. It's on Pluto Street. And the street beside Pluto Street is Saturn. That's that Saturn-Pluto thing going on. So we're going to have this Saturn-Pluto Jupiter conjunction, right? We got that subconscious mind involved in all of this, to where the imagination will be in water then, and the conscious mind will be in cardinal fire. And I know that a lot of you are start catching on, and now it's making sense to you that when I talk it like that, right? This is in water, that's on that. Now let's look at it a different way. Let's look at the same. This is the winter solstice. This is the 2020 conjunction. On the mutable cross, you have the Sun and Mercury, the Moon, Mars, and Neptune. Mutable. Cardinal is Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, and who else? Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. Fixed is Venus, and that's it. She stands alone on the fixed cross. In Mars's house of emotion, make love, not war, friendship, the hero's journey, right? And that's the deal. Let's look at today. You can look at it through the elements. So, through the elements, in water, we have Venus. That's it. In fire, we have Uranus, Saturn. Well, yes, Saturn's actually in Capricorn now. You move it. We have Jupiter, Mars, Uranus, all in fire. And Pluto. Pluto is here as well, in fire. Then we have air, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, and air. For the mutable cross, you have Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, and Venus on the mutable cross. On the cardinal cross, you have Uranus, Saturn, the Moon, and on the fixed cross, you have Mercury, the Sun, and that's it. They're all bunched up right here. Between Uranus, let me scoot this out. Everybody is right here between Uranus and Mars. We have Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Moon, Sun, Mercury, Neptune, Venus, Uranus. all right there in the cluster. So this whole other side of the zodiac is null and void, has no bearing, not prominent. And everything is between Jupiter's two houses. Jupiter rules Pisces, actually Mars' two houses, Scorpio, because Uranus is in fire. So between Mars's house of fire and water, this battle goes on. So it's between the emotions. But from one end, from cardinal to fixed. From war to love. From everything. The battle is all within. Right here. And this is considered the birth. You know, the Milky Way galaxy is the birth. That's why they call it the birth of the sun. The shortest day of the year, the winter solstice, happens here at the Milky Way galaxy. So this is the birth. The spring is when the seed comes out of the ground, Pisces. So everything is from winter to right before spring. This area. Now when spring being 321, 322, Aquarius now coming in at 311, we're 10 degrees off from the calendar being exactly how it describes in the book of Revelation for the new heaven and the new earth. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth because the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and all things were made new. So we get new. We're heading into a time of getting the new. Now by the calendars and the dates were given and what all's going on. Let me see if I can get this up. Everybody asks when. No man knows. We don't. But what we do know is that we're 10 degrees from the spring equinox being in Aquarius by their calendars, by the celestial calendars, and that each degree is 72 years. So we do 72 by 10 and we got 720 years. But we're also told that this time will be cut. It will be cut short. Or there would be no flesh saved. It's going to get so bad, Jupiter's going to have a tantrum. And it's going to be so bad that remember, he's Satan. So if he don't get his way and he can't have it, then nobody will. That is how it's described. That he's going to have his little tantrum and he'll destroy the whole planet before he lets somebody else rule besides Europe. Europe will destroy it all. And they pretty much started that. A lot of what goes on here in America is done because of the financial controls that come out of Europe, what we call old money. They have whittled their way back into the Middle East with Jerusalem after the last war. What their plan is to take down America, and then Jerusalem becomes the financial hub. They want the Jewish money. They want shekels. And that's the plan. That's their plan. When they don't realize their plan ended way back over here. So they teamed up with these guys and think they're going to extend it. It's not going to happen. We get the new heaven and the new earth. And it has to do with North America and South America. It has nothing to do with Europe or Asia or even Africa. The power structure will come from South America. Because the stars say so. Because alchemy says so. Alright, I am pretty much ready to shut all this down and take Kelly for a walk and go get some lunch. And I am now going to reach out to you people. I need advice. Where do I go? What do I do now? I have restrictions and limitations. I have to be in a state that is okay. Please write for me. That is what I call K-friendly. I need K-friendly state, and not all of them are. I also need a yard for my dog, fenced in, no sewage in the yard, cheap rent, cheap rent. I was really excited about being here. I was ready to start my own computer business, just freelancing, outsourcing, working for other people, fixing their mistakes. And I could have made good money doing that here. There's no competition for me here, but there's also no dry ground anywhere. So I don't know what to do next. I don't know how far this aqueduct reaches, or this underground water table, how far that is reaching, or I don't know anything about it other than what I'm seeing on the surface of the ground from all over this town. I've been from one end of Comanche County to the other, and it's the same. So whatever, it's huge. Like I said, there are fields of cattle and buffalo that have no structures, no pipes, nothing, and they're saturated. And there's a difference in the smell between cow shit and human feces. There's a big difference in the smell. I can tolerate cow smell. I grew up literally shoveling through cow shit for earthworms. But human waste is disgusting to smell. That regurgitating reflex happens when you smell it. You can't stand it. But big difference in the two. All right. I'm going to stop this here. Throw me some advice. North, south, east, west. Where's a good cheap town I can live? I need small town America. I am tired of the big cities. I don't want to be in a metropolitan area at all. I want to be in a little podunk town that's dying. So if y'all, I will do well there. I can support myself anywhere with just, I'm not worried about supporting myself. I'll find a way to make ends meet. I can even, now that my shit's straight in California, I can even qualify for assistance or food stamps or anything like that. But so I'm not worried about that. It's not the how. The how I can handle. It's the where I'm having a problem with, especially with the Mercury retrograde. And I can't just go stale here. I can't just sit and wait for Mercury to turn around. That can get expensive. I need to be somewhere. So throw some stones and bones at me, and I'm willing to take a slight vacation for a week or two till Mercury comes out of its retrograde and I can make a more clear decision. Maybe I'll just spend some time visiting you guys. I have a cousin in Dallas. She hadn't contacted me back yet, and I hate to leave this area without seeing her. It's been a long time. It's been over a decade since I've seen her. So, yeah, I need to see her. And I wouldn't want to move to Dallas, and Texas is not an option for me right now. Laws are changing all over the place, but we'll wait and see what pans out after the winter solstice. But it very well be I might end up in the middle of that X there in Kentucky. I don't know. I have a Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, and boy, that is literally, quotation marks, I do not know. I don't know. Maybe one of you know for me. They say there is wisdom in much counsel. Or, did I say that right? Probably not, with this Mercury retrograde. Wisdom will always seek counsel. So I'm seeking counsel. Tell me where I should be and why. And if I have to, I'll just put it all in a hat and pick one out.